Yeah, well, let's see if the mega brains from the upper bracket, some of our finalist contenders, can actually help the lower bracket friends and competitors alike make it through. I mean, to your point, you know, having that third person or fourth person in the call can make all the difference. However, you still have to press the buttons, right? I've seen some fun stacks about how accurate some players are, how players perform under pressure, right? Those are things your coach can't help you with. At the end of the day, you have to hit those shots and make those edits.
For sure. I think some immediate ones that come to mind here, Sprite. Poor man. Didn't even get a chance. Shore gonna try to turn this around. Shore does get a piece out of NTMs, but it's not good enough. Maxo with the revive and the finish. So the 2v2 clearly still not working out here either for Costa and Zypha, as Larson and Oliver OG one more time continue to show a little bit more duo dominance here at their spot.
Listen, Oliver and Larson, hungry boys. They gotta eat. They're just coming here, getting them points right now. Zypha behind the pole, tries to swing left. Yep, not gonna work here. And that's just experience right there, right? Like, Larson and Oliver OG knowing they can destroy that build with a cone, you don't learn that, right, by accident. Like, you practice that. Zypha clearly not prepared for the drop, really showing off right there. But Maxo back on over to what's happening here. He gets the pickup and then someone keys into the drop. Like, what is going on here?
It's like Stax and Mystic were contemplating paying a visit towards the ship it station, but kind of thought better of it, recognizing the fact that that duo that they were looking to contest was already too well established from their position. It's just not worth the chase, especially considering the fact that Stax didn't even have any shield to work with. So operating at a deficit, Aoxy and Jojo Fishy, they've also got Ziritz and Devo on the loop, but Ziritz try to give a little bit of fight back. However, Jojo and Aoxy clearly still at a much more advantageous position. They've just got to play this one smart, keep a good amount of spacing. Don't want to get caught off guard inside of the building by any means.
Jojo finds the first one. Aoxy finds the second. This fight's over now. Great set of eliminations there to at least put Aoxy on the board. Having a tough round so far, but there's the room to bounce back. Happened to Batman Bugo, coming out of some policeman points that they earned there in game one, but didn't quite stretch as far as they wanted to.
What's your take on the amount of teams that we've seen challenging some of these map outskirt positions? Because it's one thing to drop and contest at like a well-known POI that's got like a decent amount to split, but the outskirts where there's really not much to split in the first place. Like, you literally have to take the 50-50, and if you lose that, it's just over.
Yeah, or come to Grim Gates. There's 4 teams here. So, I mean, at that rate, I think the math checks out better for you if you land on the outskirts, mostly because you could always play a more scrappy type of, you know, build, right? Like, you can put something together if you're on the outskirts. If you're alive, you have a chance where, like, yeah, some of these main POIs, the way teams play it in particular, right? They want to play it 250-50. You don't necessarily have to land directly on top of someone. You can always split the POI in half and then decide if you need to finish the fight or move out, right? Because you didn't get something that makes sense for you. But for Bot Blast and Dragon here, they've been landing at the Lavish layer, right? It didn't work for them when they were going against Clix and Epic Whale. They gave up the drop, tried something different. That didn't work. Reverting back to their original playstyle here. It clearly is looking like they are good enough, right, to run the show here at the lower bracket. But when it comes down to, you know, the skill difference between Dragon, Fox Blast, and like Clix and Epic Whale, there is a gap there. We saw that at the drop spot just earlier today and yesterday. So I am curious to see if and when they push to finals. I do think they're going to make it to finals. What they decide to do, right? They're going to have a more difficult decision where it's like, hey, look, we did well in the lowers through Lavish, do we stick it out and then contest, you know, some of NA's best? That's a hard decision to make.
Yeah, more on that in a second, because Tony just completely ripping apart Sharkman and his duo. Flappy, another player hoping to not get eliminated in the process, but the hopes are just not going to pay off against the likes of Fade and Katara. It's a nice 2 eliminations that they're able to collect. And circling back to the Dragon and Poppy Blast conversation, we already saw Clix and Epic force that team off of their drop spot. They opted to just land elsewhere on the map. They checked out a couple of other locations that didn't pan out in their favor, which is what got them in the lowers in the first place. But maybe the familiarity of that drop could be a big part of the reason why they want to stick it at Lavish Lair just to qual. Because Grands, there's still so much opportunity just making it there in the first place.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, there could be like this false... I feel like you could pull a false positive, basically. Like, you play so well in the lower, coming out of it, all of a sudden you're thinking like, yeah, you see, we should have just stuck to what we know, right? And then all of a sudden, you get into finals, and then you're going against like really, really, really good top-tier competitors. And, you know, it only took them 1 game in uppers to realize that time, like, whoa, right? Like,
yeah,
all right,
this
didn't work out.
I can't picture them wanting to stick to Lavish Lair, knowing that Clix and Epic are going to be there. If anything, they'll probably take this week, because they do have at least this week to prepare.
That is true.
Maybe try and pinpoint a different sort of drop that they want to try and take their shots with.
We have Carrot, Sieges set up on this big surge base right now. Mackwood and Blake on their movement, just on the outsides. Mackwood and Blake, that strong opening kickoff game, now have a chance to just pop off one more time and solidify this top 15 here. For Sieges and Carrot, they have already used up their, you know, their one piece of cushion, if you will. There's no more mistakes to be made here. No more mistakes that can be had. This rate, you have to play very, very well if you've already kind of expended that first game. Otherwise, it's chalked. It's over.
And it's even more tough when you consider players like Carrot. You know, they're trying to qual from lower bracket to even experience their first FNCS Grand Finals in the first place. So, decent amount on the line, but we'll have to see how it pans out. Crims and Liam caught up for a moment. Things looking a little bit sticky here. They've got the zone closing in on them as well. Storm damage, though, only going to be 1 tick, so nothing to be super concerned about just yet, but the real issues are going to surface once they actually rotate into the zone, because they're going to have to deal with teams that are already likely in a significantly better position than themselves. Potentially even could be held on that edge of zone.
So that was really interesting. They go and use all of the Flowberry Fizz and then take the Chug Splashes to the road. I feel like that might come back to haunt them. It was only 20, but that's 4 attempts at rotations essentially, right? For you and your duo. Jumping in with Zooks and Shadows right now. Utilizing this mythic water bending. Very good for applying pressure. It's kind of crazy though, huh? Like how I remember very clearly in the first qualifier, Taco, you were mentioning like, yeah, you know, teams haven't really figured out how like strong this could be. And then all of a sudden now it's like, yeah, give them just a couple more weeks and it's like meta right now, right? Like 1 person on the teams are running mythic waterbending. It
took exactly 1 SETI and Cammy performance, I think, for everybody else to kind of just decide, yeah, maybe we should tap in. Waterbending mythic, it definitely goes crazy. I like as well seeing teams opt to use it, considering that it has the infinite ammo. So even though it doesn't do a drastic amount of damage against builds, it makes it harder for teams in those surge bases to want to opt for peeking, because it's very likely they'll get hit by the waterbending mythic, and if not that, just chopping out the top layers, because again, you're not wasting any of your actual ammo, and you can always swap it out if you don't want to carry it into the late game. But if you're a team that's looking to try and play for height, play that top position, the waterbending Mythic then becomes an excellent tool when it comes to suppressive fire.
Yeah, you know, I think it does pretty good pressure though. Like, we've seen a lot of, today especially, a lot of teams getting hard pressure by multiple Mythic waterbending, essentially duos targeting into the box. So that no cooldown definitely gives you an edge, I'd say, over some of the other items or weapons in the game.
Yeah, also that shot from Blake on the DMR.
Well, 102.
You were talking about the fact that, you know, he'd been warmed up, was looking really good, but his duo, Mackwood as well, in the first lobby, dealing 1,500 damage and a little bit of change, but he only took 67 damage from players. It's like a 22.66 damage ratio, man. Shoutouts Alden with hot deets, man. Just crazy how heavily these players can be monitored, but those are the kinds of stats that you're going to have to whip out if you want to maintain that position in the top 15 on leaderboards.
And that's another fun stat right there. The win coming out of Grand Glacier, of all the NA teams, the first team to win a game out of the Glacier there was just caught on broadcast for us here. Exciting stuff, but just shows you stats are meant to be formed and broken at times. But take a look at the H cube here, losing Fago, and you have to wonder, why are they fighting right now? 64 points, 3 eliminations already. You don't need this fight as much as the other player likely does. Why not just try to get the reboot at this time? You have everything that, you know, you can honestly hope to work for. And yeah, look, this is a desperate player. This is someone with 8 points right now. And Cube is still going for it. Okay, so we're seeing the confidence. Let's see what he's got. I mean, pressure's on at this point for him to perform. It's him who has everything to lose at this rate. Goes for the high ground retake. Love the side jump. Okay, clearly has been practiced.
This is a fight, though, that Cube kind of needs, because if he can force this other player back, that means that he might have the opportunity to then utilize the reboot van. It is still early enough, and you can already hear
Oh, it goes so fast.
He's just immediately trying to push this reboot van. We saw a couple of reboot van battles over in EU throughout the course of this weekend, but Cube, he knows he can't permit Cupcake to continue. Otherwise, he's going to lose this opportunity outright. He wants to bring Fago back into this one. But Cube actually just outright electing to let Cupcake have it. He'll take his odds with the tunnel instead. Another reboot van so close by. But now he's definitely exposed himself to teams that are a little bit further south of Pleasant Piazza. If this reboot van might alert the masses.
But you know what's worse about this as well is that other player is going to get the pickup, and then his duo is going to secure all the loot there, right?
Yes.
Which is like Hugh just set himself up for a huge L, like low key. Like, he might have thought like, oh yeah, fine, this is smart, like I'll get the pickup. Yeah, sure. However, you just gave away all of your duo's loot like to the opponent, so that's even more of a setback for them right now. It's harder to come back out of that situation, I think, than it is to just, you know, play it out, like, if you will, or take the fight. Because even then, he blew like 200 metal just to protect himself there too. So it's a lot to trade off for the pickup at that moment.
You almost have to wonder if maybe that's kind of a split decision potentially between teammates, or even potentially a call made by a coach involvement. But I'm right there with you, MDF. It's a pretty big sacrifice to make. So maybe Cube and Fago, given the fact that they already had those 64 points, have the feeling that they've got the confidence in their own gameplay. Like, hey, we'll make it back. We'll get the loot back at some point. It's the only reason I could imagine that they'd be so willing to forfeit that opportunity at the Ship It Station reboot.
Well, we're going to start gearing up for the mid-game here now. Cease and Jack are already positioned up with a big boy base here. Once the zone starts to close, we'll likely start seeing warnings come out. And more importantly, where this game's going to start ending, I feel like we've gotten like a lot of West zone pulls. Like, there has not been a lot of East zone pulls, or North zone pulls for that matter.
Cease and Jack, though, they're just trying to make the most of this current circumstance. They've got their Surge Tower. Question is, how many shots have they really been able to connect throughout the process of some of those other teams trickling in and around their territory? Aviv and Chubbs, though, right back to it. So more teams filtering in towards this split near the Ship It Station in between Pleasant Piazza and Fencing Fields. You could see a handful of teams as well just south of where Aviv and Chubbs currently have this Surge Tower built at. And for the teams coming in from the south side, Walkers and Fatch could have a tough time about it, but not as tough as what Blanc and Sandler are dealing with. Stax and Mystic just gonna cut their odds short here in Lobby 2. Back to the drawing board, and Sandler Blanc looking like they're gonna need a Victor Royale win, basically, with some eliminations if they want to find themselves in that top 15 on the leaderboard. The odds are slim, but Stax and Mystic, they needed this one as well. Potentially looking to try and make a dead side rotation, because they are far away from everybody else.
For TK and Frantic, Bacon here, much different conversation. You can see how well positioned they are. Well above the surge as well. No worries in sight here.
There goes the reboot.
Picking up nearby.
Everybody's looking. TK's trying to pinpoint where exactly. Regardless, if it hits all the way, you know that TK is probably gonna open up this cone and then start trying to take shots at the player gliding in, if not just keying in that direction in general. I think that's part of the reason why they opted to just leave their box.
I don't know how I feel about them leaving the box, though. They were like dead center in the zone right now. So for them to start giving up that positioning here, they might be trying to position up for height, but we'll find out. Zeus and Shadow, though, 28 below the surge, a tag away from getting finished, and Zeus's Medkit goes off just in time. Flowberry Fizz has to come out here. This is in desperation, by the way, to dump a full Flowberry here. Try to stay alive right now. The options are looking bleak, though. Mega and users.
They just need
Flood
one.
on the left. Yep.
But with the way that things are going, Monster, that's going to be the last small shield potion. Now it's down to the last bit of Zooks' Flowberry Fizz. Zooks knows he doesn't have any more time to waste, getting tagged up from behind by Liam. And he's just trying to force himself ahead, one above the damage threshold, and barely making it outside of that elimination range that Liam was trying to force into the conversation. But Zooks and Shadow have used up everything, and they're right back to square one. Damage threshold applying yet again, 20 below this time. Day and Source.
Ooh.
Big hits, though. Day had no chance to ever see it coming.
Zook saw that box open up and he jumped straight in. That's actually crazy. What an elimination right there. He's in the storm eating it right now, but I mean, he's super happy about that one. And then the insta finish as well. The teammate goes down exactly on cue. Take a look at what's happening on the other side, though. We saw Flutto, one of those teams that was inside the storm, now edging his way out of the edge of the storm. See, Surge is bothering or affecting this team too. And now all the tags coming in. Yeah, this is what happens when you're late to the rotate. Justin Wood builds. It's all signs of desperation at this point. Cease and Jack not looking to let up right now. They have a chance to capitalize on elimination, but honestly, the fact that it's just a DMR there, the shield crack comes through, no walls come down, so Jack should be reading this and knowing that this is an elimination. Just pick it up at this point.
Cow cannot possibly have any more pills, right? Like, surely he's got...
He got Flutto's Siphon. Yeah, no,
yeah,
he got... Yep, that's it.
That's the thing, though, is I'm almost amazed at the fact that Jack and Cease opt to not just full key him from that position. They knew that he was absolutely down horrendous in that circumstance, but they want to make sure that they maintain a good leverage over the rest of the lobby, and that starts with having optimal positioning yourselves. Now looking back, they might even have an opportunity to finish what they'd started. But they do need to be wary of the teams that are already poised on the top of this hill. Jack already getting some friendly hellos. They don't want to be the team that gets focused by the entirety of the lobby.
You can never go wrong with some high-quality Fortnite. We're seeing it all play out right here. Anything can happen on the big stage. You know what, Batman Booga? Rapid here, a little update from the West Boys. What's it looking like? Find himself above the surge. Such a heavy contention on the map right now up here to this north side. Very few teams have jumped away, and you can see the risk that imposes. It's going to pull straight east, northeast, back to where the majority of the players are. Players like Cease right now have a chance here to start targeting these teams out in the distance. Mackwood and Blake breaking the 100-point threshold probably have just done enough to maintain their top 15. If I had to guess, it's looking pretty rock solid.
Yeah, they're not necessarily a team that's concerned about falling outside of that top 15 threshold, but they want to maintain their composure, I think, and just good discipline. Yeah, they've done a great job.
The pickup was good. Yeah, so he rezzed them. He got back in the game. I was a little concerned if whether or not they were going to be able to get back into it, but they're at 6 elims now, so something's going right.
Same could be said for Larson and Oliver OG. 3 eliminations, a little bit lower on builds. Probably lower than they'd like to be. No brick at all for Larson, but if they can find at least one more refresh, because the numbers are dwindling as far as their safety above that damage threshold. A lot of congestion also pooling in to that south side of the zone. They're trying to work through just one tile up over the low ground, but they don't necessarily have enough materials. They are going to have to make this rotate on foot. And Larson doesn't have any more Flowberry Fizz. Maybe Oliver's carrying the remnants of a singular bottle, but if not, this is going to get a little bit tricky here, because there's a lot of flat ground, and the team on height could have prime pickings.
You have Cat on the other side of this build right now, but Blake and Mackwood are just so dominant. They're holding his position well. Going for ultimate height at this point. Not even a half high ground hold. They're just trying to distance themselves from the rest. But Jack and Cease here turn online in the low ground. 15 damage below. We'll have to get active here. There comes the tags from the Storm Surge, and the hesitation is starting to wear on the team here. They lost track of the player that they had right there, and Siege turns the corner and hits the shot, but Jack still here clutching up. These are crucial points right now. Jack has to swing around. Great read on the Storm here, and the mantle over. Very, very, very smart. But he's too far from the zone to sit this one out and try to heal here. If I'm him, I'm thinking I dash now that I have some stamina, but it is going to come down to a full med kit at this point. Then he's going to let everyone else just go and earn as much placement points as possible. Look at how the Storm damage is starting to ramp up now. One missed edit, and yeah. So he had to go when he had the chance to, but it is what it is. He goes from 16th to top 11, so still 4 placement points is worth plenty.
Yeah, had 86 points by the end of it. So despite getting cut short here in lobby number 2, there's still one more game to play through. Fatch and Walkers, they've really got to hit the jets in this one. Fatch trying to do what he can to provide some coverage, but he recognizes he's got to stay ahead of everybody else, trying to make his way through to the next zone. Splitting from Walkers, though. It's looking like he's just trying to play his own life at this point. And Walkers, understandably, might just be looking to play Disruptor, but he's going to encounter Oliver OG and Larson, and that's going to be the end of him. So now it's down to Fatch to try and get a good solo performance in here. Oliver, though, and Larson playing from that backside of the zone seems to have worked against them in a sense, as they find themselves tangled up. Players dropping from above. Larson just gets immediately doused, and Oliver soon to follow. Chubbs with a nice knock here onto Aoxy, but the tick damage is just too much, man.
But Aviv is happy about this. They were in 16th place coming into this. This is surely going to jump them up into top 10. This is a great performance. 5th now, and they're still going here as Chubbs is fully finished now. So Aviv swings around. He's going to secure a 5th place. Mackwood and Blake have the high ground here. And it's going to come down to a 2v2v1. Fago being that one player that's in the mix here. Nerface with a breakout from the high ground. Mackwood takes some damage there and tags. Blake takes fall damage. So this is actually looking like it can be anyone's game at this point. Fago just listening it nearby. And then firing for the low ground. Okay. Fago can now win officially, given all the distraction here up top. But the heels come down. Fago loses his opportunity to win the game, if you will.
Fago's real W is the fact that he's getting a 2nd place finish here. If you factor it all in. Again, I'm not trying to implement the whole caster's curse ideology or anything like that, but Blake and Mackwood down to their last 5 builds. 2 medkits though, a couple of splashes. Fago trapped in the water, trying to expend some of these dashes, but it's Fago versus Mackwood, and it's just not going to be enough. But Blake and Mackwood with another victory royale here in the lower bracket. If they weren't set before, this one has most definitely locked them in to that top 15 for the leaderboard. So we'll see these guys in the grand finals for sure.
Someone to revoke their Q keys at this point. They've now ran through the whole lobby here. Take a look at it. Blake and Mackwood pick up a multitude of eliminations here in the end, just playing upsetter to the remainder of the lobby. This is what I was talking about. Fago had a chance right here while this is all going down to break the structures from underneath Mackwood and Blake. Had he done that, I mean, that would have been on for Fago there, but he waits to the end and earns himself a great 2nd place there, and that's after getting picked up. So well played, and congratulations to Blake and Mackwood with a Game 2 victory royale there. Taco, they are very much going to finals at this rate.
Yeah, and they've got to be feeling really good about that one. But Nerface and Verse, that might have also been the first time anybody even looked at the high ground. But we'll figure out exactly what was going down because we've got Zeke, Pivot, and Kelly to break it all up for us.